Hey Wargamers, Doug here from 2 Plus Stuff, and something that is very near and dear to my heart personally is Indie-Wargames. Of course, I cover a lot of the big companies here on my channel, Modiphius, Games Workshop, all those kinds of things. But really, what captures the spark of wargaming, the thing that got us all interested in this as kids, I really think is best exemplified by these smaller indie game publishers without a model range and the freedom to capture the exact feelings and vibes on the tabletop that we're looking for. I mean, all those companies make fantastic miniatures, but they're not limited to those game systems, of course. Now, I've talked a ton about different miniature agnostic games here on the channel. I plan to do a lot more in 2026 because, quite frankly, the market's getting very tight. So more ways to play with the models that you already own, I think, is going to be a theme for the next couple years. But the company whose indie games that I own more than any other is Blaster Magazine. Actually, it's most of this little section right here on my bookshelf. It's always been in the background. I got a few examples without making my entire bookshelf collapse, but each one of these magazines, give me 1 second, I'll just hold one up here, my favorite as an example. So this is Blaster number 6. It is a game designed by Andy Chambers and Gav Thorpe, legends in the Warhammer space or wargaming space because of their work on the original versions of Warhammer. And this is a complete and total game system. There's tons of artwork in here, wonderful instructions, and this particular game is about ship-to-ship combat in the Void, and it uses a lot of really cool mechanics to represent actual space battles, much closer than the ships that we play in other games. But in terms of the actual kinetic motions of ships and stuff like that, the rules are accessible. And again, every single thing you need is right in one magazine. And just going briefly through my stack here, we have spaceship battles, we have Sludge, which is a dark history, we have Dead by Lead, which is a Wild West one. We have a few from their archives here. We have Mystic Skies, which is a Sean Stutter and Mike Hutchinson, both awesome indie game creators. It's like wizards shooting at each other as they ride their magic carpets. Tank Arena, and a legacy format for Gaslands, which is sort of their campaign version. What they all have in common is an insane amount of quality put in, both not into the games and the testing, but also the actual layout and cover and artwork and stuff like that. And since so many of us have fantasy miniatures, if you watch my channel, you probably have at least a few, I wanted to point out one of these magazines that's coming next to Kickstarter. If you have ever heard of the game Forbidden Psalm, it is sort of this whole paradigm within indie wargaming, this sort of dark, highly accessible war game, skirmish level, with a heavy emphasis on modeling, kit bashing, and that kind of thing. The creator of that game is actually doing a Blaster magazine completely, again, in one-piece magazine game about the dark age of fantasy, specifically in Wales. So there's a lot of English folklore monsters. It's about villagers fighting each other and these monsters that come around them and haunt them in their villages. I believe his name is pronounced Will Rom, maybe that's it. But he's the creator of Forbidden Psalm. Incredibly cool artist. I met him once at an event and he was just very friendly, very personable, accessible. And he makes wonderful game systems, wonderful at community management. And I'm so glad that he's bringing what he does to Blaster Magazine. So there's a Kickstarter going on for that this month. I'm going to leave it in the description down below. I'm going to be participating. I would love for you to join me. If you are interested in it, I'm more than happy to do content for it here on the channel. Again, it's not too much to cover. These are, again, self-contained games. But if that one doesn't interest you, the dark fantasy, just have a look around, because whenever they do Kickstarters, Blaster also puts all their other, these magazines, these older ones, as bundle options for really, really cheap. So it's just an easier way to get printed copies of things too. And they got a whole bunch of stuff, because I'm also a backer of what's called Bloody Hollow, which is a early, I think, 18th century kind of vibe. Think Sleepy Hollow, the war game. So you have a band of warriors and there's some monster, in this case the Headless Horseman, terrorizing your town, and you're trying to fight. I'm still hunting the perfect models that I want to be some of the monsters and villagers and set pieces, but I have been able to play test it a little bit while it's still in beta as it's being produced with my Firelock Games miniatures for Blood and Plunder. My point is, you can find a vibe that you like and just draw into that game. And if you've ever, like me, been curious about game design in general, how do you take the conceptual idea of a game and turn it into reality, I would also recommend you follow Blaster on their Discord, because they have a ton of resources and dialogue and chat set up for game development. So for example, they have a game that's in early beta right now called, I think, Seraphim and Sanctuary, where think capital ships flying, fighting and a bunch of little things kind of skirmishing in between them, almost like Battlefield Gothic, except it's not in space. It's on ground with these giant land mover crafts and mechs to intercept each other and stuff like that. So I think of like Mad Max meets the Jawa sand crawler. Now, the point I bring this up is I want to bring it home to my topic earlier. The global markets are crazy right now. And the face and nature of wargaming as an industry is changing dramatically with larger access to STL files and 3D printers. Finding miniatures you want to tell stories you want to tell is becoming easier than ever and more accessible and affordable. And so these kinds of games where you can spend, if you just get the digital copy out, I'm not actually sure what the price is for the Forbidden Psalm one specifically, but I think it's like $25 to get a printed entire rulebook for a game. And some of these are quite chunky as far as rulebooks go. To have that plus the miniatures you either already own or have easy access to, I just think that is the way a lot of wargaming is going to pivot in the future. It certainly looked that way at Adepticon this last year. I always dedicate one day of my Adepticon adventure to just walking the vendor hall and talking with small business owners about their games and what they're doing. And at least 3 completely unrelated in different sections of the vendor hall people told me it feels like Games Workshop is pushing people towards us, meaning the pricing policies, the aggressive redoing of the rules every 3 years, that kind of stuff is kind of pushing people away from Games Workshop. But they have all these killer models and they have this wonderful collection of things and these stories they want to tell. And so these kinds of indie game developers like Blaster Magazine or Electi Studios, who produces it, are seeing a spike and a renaissance of this. People who want to engage with this hobby, but are so repulsed by the big companies that indie artists have a chance to really thrive. Now, there are other companies out there. I will be talking about them later this year, but Blaster is doing this Kickstarter and I wanted to promote it because, quite frankly, how can you sleep on the Forbidden Psalm guy? I got it written down here because I'm terrible. I have a Midwest tongue. It's called The Dark Ages of Anwin, I think it's how it's pronounced. And supporting creators like this means more than anything else in the era of AI created content and ways to pull people away into the digital world, and you and a buddy really hanging out and having a great time playing your games, using whatever miniatures you have and having a great time. I'm happy to keep you all up to date with my progress as it comes to Bloody Hollow, and I am going to be trying to do the beta testing for Seraphim and Sanctuary because I love the idea of these like dirt land crawlers duking it out. It's a very interesting kind of warfare, and it works for my brain a little bit more because I just don't feel like a ton of games really grasp the 3-dimensional aspect of space. Whereas if it is on a flat plane like Earth, it kind of a lot of the rules make more sense. Another really great game that they have there in their archives is Sludge. I had it showed here earlier. I think World War I, but the world just devolved into dirt and mud, and that theme just perpetuated. There's a really cool mechanic where the more damage your army takes, you accumulate like gore piles, and those have like a morale effect on everybody around them. There's some fantastic modeling opportunities from historical miniatures, and each stand, so instead of one guy being on a base, you'll have like a bigger base, like a 60 mil, I think, and then have 3 soldiers on there, so everybody acts as sort of a team like that. It's very interesting. No matter what your flavor is, they got something for you. So go check out Blaster Magazine. Join me in supporting a small business. Electi Studios is wonderful, and they have a ton of talent in there from people who are primarily artists who made games to support their designs, as well as gaming legends, Gab Thorpe, Andy Chambers, all that kind of stuff have been around for forever. Sorry, guys. If you have a Blaster game that you enjoy quite a bit, please leave in the comments down below. And I always pin the most helpful comment to help people see different options and stuff like that, get the most information out there. And I will catch you in my next video. Happy wargaming, friends.